Hey guys, how's it going? Capo here, and today's video I'm going to show you how one simple application can make your PC run a hell of a lot better. Let's get into it. Okay, so that program that makes it run a hell of a lot easier and has a free version is Lasso. So I'll put the link in the description and we can download it. It's not a massive install, which is great. So download that application and install it. There is a paid version, I will let you know, there is a paid version that gives you a few extra features. I'll put the link in there to show you what the difference is between free and paid, and then you can make the decision yourself. I'll also put, there's a coupon code that I found, I think it's 20% discount on the full version. So if you choose, it's not my code, just an FYI. Yeah, there's a code there that gives you 20% off. So if you do want to pay for it, you find that the performance is actually beneficial and you want to help out the developers, by all means do what I did. Use the code, get a discount, and then pay for the software, and you get a few extra features as well. So myself, I've purchased the lifetime license. So it also, you can get a difference if you've got more than one PC and you want to have it on multiple. You can get a multi-license, as well as you can get just an individual license. So the price is a little bit different. So I've got that, and I'll have it on my machine, and then eventually later on when I've got other machines, I've got the license to put it on multiple. So anyway, once you've downloaded the app and installed it, restart the PC, so then it's a clean startup, and don't load anything. So then you've got all the processes that start up when you first turn it on. Okay, so I'm using a CPU which is the Ryzen 9 5900X, so it's 12 cores, 24 threads. So I've got a lot of room to play with. So depending on what you're running in your system, you might pick, say, I've picked half because I've got a lot of room. If you've got, say, it's only 12 threads, you might only use, say, a third, so that way you've still got 2/3 to use with OBS or with games or whatever. It's a little bit of playing around. So because I've got so much to use on mine, I've got more room to play. So if you've only got, say, one that has 12 cores, 12 threads, then you might want to say, I'll dedicate everything to, say, the first 4, so 0 to 3, and then you use the other, like another 4 for if you stream and record videos for OBS, and then another 4 for your game launcher and the game itself. So then you can split it across that way. So if you do find that the performance isn't running, if you find it's actually performing worse because you've separated them, you might find some things need more CPU usage than others. So you can always tinker around, like they don't have to be even across the board. I just make it even because it makes it a bit easier for me to remember, as well as I've got a lot more to play with. But if I had less, I would make sure obviously that all the processes running in the background have enough, and then if I'm running a game like Warzone, Apex, whatever, I don't want to give it just minimal resource and then it runs worse than what it did before. So you can always chop and change, and it really depends on what your system is to see what the best performance you can get out of it. So it's just this will just be like a baseline to use, and then if you have a little bit of issues, by all means put some comments in. I'll happily jump in there and try and help you out to make sure you get the best performance out of your machine that you can. So to do that, what we'll do is you just click on any that you need, and you can just go Control A to select all. You right click, go CPU Affinity, and then go to Always, and then go Select. So because what it'll do, originally it'll pick everything. So what you want to do is, depending on how many you've got, you want to pick, just say you want to have 4, you uncheck them all, and then just tick the 4 that you want to have dedicated to those resources, and then click OK. So I've got some other things running to show you the different rules and the different affinity. So I'm not going to change it now, but that's where you change it, and then it'll change these numbers here under the CPU affinity. Okay. Some will error. So there are some system ones that want to actually look after the resources themselves, so they won't like you trying to tell it what to load on. So that's fine, that's normal. You can let them do their thing, perfectly fine. So once we've set up all the other resources to use the other CPUs, so the 12 to 23, Then we go over to the active ones to make it a bit easier to read. And then what we can do is we can pick, like for example, I've got OBS here. So OBS, so when I stream and play on the same PC, so what I did was, because I've got plenty to play with, I dedicated 4 CPUs, 4 threads to OBS itself. So all I need to do is, don't worry about the 12 to 23, I only use 0 to 11. So we right click on the executable, CPU affinity, then go always, and then we go select. What we do is we just uncheck them all, so we can clear them, tick the 4 that you want to use, and then say OK, and then there you go, it sets it like that. And then next time you start up that application, you'll notice here that it's only going to use those CPUs that you provided. And what I usually do as well, so I use OBS to have 4, that's plenty. I haven't had any issues with resources with OBS. I've got a RTX, I've got a 3070, so it uses a Turing chip to do the encoding and all that stuff, and it doesn't have any issues in OBS whatsoever. So that's more than enough resources on mine. And then when it comes to the gaming applications, you want to put the launcher in the dedicated CPU affinity, so it will then apply that same logic to the apps that you run. Okay. So then what you want to do is you want to find your application launcher. So I think I have BattleNet. There it is. There's BattleNet. There we go. BattleNet, there it is. So you want to find BattleNet. So I've loaded that up for your Call of Duties or whatever you want to load. You want to right click, stop moving. There we go, right click, CPU affinity, go always, and then select. And I'm using 8 of the cores, or 8, virtual CPUs. So once we've set that up, what that does is it will dedicate those 8, 0 to 7 to anything that the BattleNet launcher will use. So when you load up Warzone, Vanguard, whatever, or whatever Call of Duty or whatever BattleNet title in that application, it will then pass through that same CPU affinity to the application itself. So that way it saves you, especially with things like Steam, it saves you having to go through every single game, executable, load it up, go in here, right click, CPU affinity, you know what I mean. So once you've changed those settings, you might need to usually I restart the application or the launcher. We can even just restart the whole PC to make sure it's all set. And then once the PC restarts, you should then, just to confirm, load up the application, the process Lasso. Load it up, make sure you can see in the CPU affinity tab, in that column there, under active processes, that the applications themselves, so with BattleNet you can see it's using 0 to 7. All the other apps that I've told use the others are using 12 to 23. And then the ones down here, these are the system ones that just will not change, which is fine. It's perfectly fine, the system stuff, you don't want to mess with it, otherwise it'll just get very angry. Don't want to do that. So once all that's done, you've set it all up and you're happy with that, launch your game, and you should see over here, if you still leave the thing open, you'll see that I've got OBS running right now, so it's using those 4 CPUs, virtual CPUs or threads. So you can see how much it's using over here, and the other ones it's only using minimal here, minimal there. So that's all the other stuff in the background. So if I loaded up a game now, you'll see the CPU spike across all these 0 to 7. Okay, so now we can see Warzone's loaded up, so it's up in the background, and you can see over here that it's now using 0 to 7, the CPU affinity. So over here in the graph, it's using them, and you can see everything else that's running in the background, it's barely using the other CPUs, threads. So again, this will vary depending on what CPU you've got in your system. But I have used this on, mine's a AMD, it's a Ryzen 9 5900X. I have helped out one of my friends on an Intel CPU as well. Works perfectly fine. It's a little bit different, I think, in the naming, but it works just the same. Another one of my friends, he also is using, I think, the latest 12th gen at the time, well, now, the 12th gen chips. Works great with those as well. It was recently updated to support them a bit better because how it manages the CPUs is a bit different, but it supports those and it works well. and it's very happy with it. As well as you can go to the application power profile, and then you can pick which one that you want that C or that executable to use. So I'm not sure if it makes much difference, but I've changed some of the executables because I know Warzone's a bit, resource intensive. So I've changed it to use the bit some highest performance. Okay, so basically that's it. So all you need to do is, once you've set the priority or the affinity with your default services that run at startup, then go through your different game launchers, make sure you set it appropriately, and then once they're done, all the games that load in it are also done, and you're good to go. So if you do find it helpful, feel free, hit the like button. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one. See you guys.